ago. Amazing. Aoife, without whom there can be no show, do we have a ninth caller?
Yes, you have Rose Ellen from Queens as well.
Excellent, Rose Ellen. Very nice to hear from you. Go ahead, please.
Hi. I just want to say I think we really should intervene in Syria because you have the people themselves have risen up against a dictator, and they're being killed every single day. And for us to just stand back and just watch people being tortured and killed every single day,
what sort of intervention did you have in mind, Rose Ellen?
I really don't know. I'm not a military specialist, but we have to do something.
Well, a bit like the intervention in Libya?
Well, to tell the truth, I did support that only because the people themselves rose up. Unlike Iraq, unlike Afghanistan, unlike Pakistan, we already have troops there, unfortunately, in Iraq, Afghanistan, and, all in the name of human rights.
Let me ask you, I want to explore this with you for the benefit of both of us and also everybody listening. How many people need to rise up before they're called the people rising up? Have you any idea of the breakdown, for example, inside Syria, of support for the regime and opposition to the regime?
I don't have the exact breakdown, but
okay, but isn't that important, Rose Ellen?
It's not that important.
Well, let me ask you then. Let me put it in an American context. If 100,000 American people rose up with weapons against the U.S. government, would you expect the U.S. government to militarily crush this armed revolt? Would you expect foreign countries to bomb America in protest to try and stop the U.S. government from dealing with this armed revolt against their government and against their state? What's the answer to both of those questions? Well, you laugh, you see, but that's precisely what you're advocating in this case. You have no idea, as you've just admitted, how many Syrians have risen up against their government and how many Syrians support their government. What you do know, and I know, is there's a civil war in Syria. And joining in other people's civil wars is generally not a good idea, Rose Ellen. It generally leads to everything becoming worse.
I don't believe this is a civil war. I believe
What is it then?
It's the government, the dictatorship cracking down on the people out in the streets.
But you've just admitted when I asked you, Rose Ellen, when I asked you how many Syrians support their regime, you told me you had no idea.
Well,
well, unfortunately for you, I do have an idea.
How many?
There are 18 sects, nationalities, confessions in Syria. It's the most complex society in the region. 18 Arabs, Kurds, Druze, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Sunnis, Muslim Shia, Muslim Alawiyin. There are 18 in total.
That's not what
different
this is
sects.
about.
Hold on. I'm explaining something to you because you've admitted you really don't know anything about the country that you're calling for us to intervene on.
Actually,
no, it's very important. I need to educate you. I need to educate you about this.
Go ahead.
Now, there are hundreds of thousands of opponents of the Syrian regime, maybe millions, maybe. But there are certainly tens of thousands of them armed and now at war with the Syrian regime. They have tanks, they have artillery, they have explosives, they have small arms. It's clear. You could just go to YouTube and you'll see it. You'll see them waving their rifles and chanting Allahu Akbar. I don't know if that's a slogan of yours, if you like that slogan, but it's omnipresent on the streets of Syria with these so-called revolutionaries. Now, there are 26. Hold on. There are 26 million people in Syria. If you go to YouTube, you'll see demonstrations in support of their regime, also of many hundreds of thousands. Indeed, their demonstrations are vastly greater than the demonstrations that the opposition are able to muster. So we have to conclude that where hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions, are against their regime and are increasingly armed from outside, that you have a civil war between the supporters of the regime and the opponents of the regime. Now, I'm putting it to you, who gave the United States of America, bankrupt as it is, who gave Britain, bankrupt as it is, the duty, the responsibility to travel thousands of miles to get involved in somebody else's civil war?
Well, my answer is the fact that we have troops in that area, number one. Number two, the fact that...
You don't have troops in that area.
We have in that, we have them in Iraq, we have them in Pakistan, we have them in Afghanistan.
Listen, Rosellen.
What?
First of all, you don't have them in Pakistan.
You don't.
Secondly, Pakistan is as far from Syria as New York City.
Well,
so you really have to get a handle on the region, on the complexities, on where we have troops and where we don't, before you start coming on the radio, calling for other people's countries to be bombed. Are you a Salafist yourself, Rosellen?
They're mowing people down every single day.
Are you a big Islamist supporter yourself?
I'm a Catholic myself, but I support the Muslims.
You're a Catholic.
I support the Muslims.
You're a Catholic. Oh, Rosellen, you're a Catholic.
But I'm
So you haven't paid any attention to the statements of the Catholic hierarchy in Syria, have you?
Well, my father is Syrian, Catholic Syrian.
Well, if you're a Catholic of Syrian background, the best advice I can give you is to go and study the statements of the Christian leadership in Syria about these events. That's what you need to do. Or do you know better? Do you know better in New York?
People are being mowed down every single day. People are being mowed down every single day. That's what I know. And it's a horrendous crime against humanity. And we have an obligation to protect people from being mowed down where and when we can.
Rosellen, people are being mowed down on both sides in a civil war. You're not listening to what I'm saying.
It's not a civil war.
But listen to me. If you're a Catholic,
it's a civil war. The right wing is telling you it's a civil war. It's a dictatorship. Yes.
In the name of God, I beg you to listen to what I'm about to say to you.
Yes.
If you're a Catholic, read what the Catholic Church in Syria has to say about these events. Don't pretend that in New York, where you think Pakistan is next to Syria, that you know better than the priests, than the bishops, than the archbishops, than the cardinals in Syria, because you don't. You can't. And anyone listening to this knows already that you are a classic example of a little knowledge being dangerous. You're a very dangerous woman, Rosellen, and I bid you good morning.
Goodbye.
Ife, do we have a 10th call?
Yes, you do. You have Arthur from Queens.